Ini Mbak Natania temannya di ini ya Mbak, diingatkan suruh bergabung ya Mbak.
Inci Prof, baik.
Setiap warga negara Indonesia memiliki hak untuk mendapatkan pendidikan yang layak melalui lembaga-lembaga terpercaya, salah satunya adalah sekolah. Banyaknya sekolah yang tersebar di Indonesia, di kota, di desa, bahkan di daerah terpencil yang sulit dijangkau menjadi bukti pentingnya pendidikan bagi kita. Karena hal itulah dibutuhkan sosok seorang guru yang ikhlas menyalurkan keilmuannya, memiliki kualitas SDM, profesional, pedagogik, kepribadian, dan sosial yang unggul untuk mengembangkan para peserta didik. Menjadi guru yang handal dan profesional adalah suatu tuntutan yang melekat. Setelah berangkat dari tekad dan kemauan yang kuat untuk menjadi guru, mari ayunkan langkah menuju perguruan tinggi penghasil kependidikan. Fakultas Keguruan dan Ilmu Pendidikan atau FKIP Universitas 11 Maret yang berada di kota Surakarta menjadi salah satu solusi dari permasalahan tersebut. FKIP UNS adalah salah satu lembaga penghasil guru yang telah diakui mutu dan keberadaannya. Profil lulusan FKIP UNS menjadi guru yang kreatif, inovatif, cinta budaya, dan berjiwa milenial telah dikenal di berbagai sekolah dan lembaga pendidikan di seluruh penjuru tanah air, bahkan di luar negeri.
Visi FKIP UNS adalah menjadi pusat pengembangan ilmu, teknologi, dan seni di bidang keguruan serta ilmu pendidikan yang bereputasi internasional dengan berlandaskan pada nilai-nilai luhur budaya nasional. Dalam pelaksanaan organisasi, FKIP UNS menerapkan budaya kerja aktif yang meliputi achievement orientation, berorientasi pada pencapaian, customer satisfaction, kepuasan pelanggan, teamwork, kerjasama tim, integritas, visionary, berpandangan jauh ke depan, dan entrepreneurship, kewirausahaan.
FKIP UNS terletak di beberapa lokasi. Selain kampus induk Kentingan, juga di Ngoresan, Kleco, Pabelan, dan Kebumen. Saat ini FKIP UNS mengelola lebih dari 10.000 mahasiswa dengan 49 program studi, terdiri dari 25 program studi S1, 18 program studi S2, program profesi guru, dan 5 program studi S3. Untuk program S1 dan S2, terdiri dari program studi dalam rumpun ilmu pendidikan, bahasa dan sastra, matematika dan IPA, IPS, dan pendidikan teknik kejuruan. Untuk program studi S3, terdiri dari program studi S3 Ilmu Pendidikan, S3 Pendidikan Bahasa Indonesia, dan S3 Pendidikan Sains. 59% program studi telah terakreditasi A, dan sisanya telah terakreditasi B. FKIP UNS memiliki tenaga pengajar atau dosen yang berkualifikasi unggul. Jumlah dosen sekarang 392 orang, 173 orang diantaranya bergelar doktor dan 33 orang bergelar guru besar. Lebih dari 50% dosen telah berhasil menulis artikel di dalam jurnal internasional bereputasi dan terindeks. Beberapa buku dan karya paten juga banyak dihasilkan oleh para dosen. Dalam rangka menuju World Class University, telah sedang dan terus melakukan program internasionalisasi, diantaranya adalah Visiting Professor, program praktek lapangan internasional, research kolaboratif, joint conference, joint publication. Beberapa perguruan tinggi yang telah bekerja sama program internasionalisasi antara lain dari Amerika Serikat, Jerman, Jepang, India, Singapura, Thailand, Brunei Darussalam, dan Malaysia. Untuk merespon perkembangan teknologi informasi, lebih dari 50% program studi di FKIP UNS telah menerapkan metode pembelajaran berbasis digital melalui program blended learning, penelitian dan pengabdian masyarakat melalui sistem Intelligent Research and Innovation Service, sistem informasi akademik untuk mahasiswa, serta informasi beasiswa yang dapat diakses secara online kapanpun dan dimanapun. FKIP UNS juga menyediakan fasilitas aksesibilitas untuk penyandang disabilitas, termasuk jalur kursi roda, toilet khusus, dan dukungan lainnya. Dalam bidang kemahasiswaan untuk mengembangkan soft skill, penyaluran bakat dan minat mahasiswa, FKIP UNS memiliki 11 unit kegiatan mahasiswa atau UKM. Di antaranya, Lembaga Pers Mahasiswa Motivasi, Organisasi Pecinta Alam Brahma Hardika, Peron Teater, Sentra Kegiatan Islam, Keluarga Mahasiswa Katolik, Badan Eksekutif Mahasiswa, Dewan Mahasiswa, kelompok paduan suara, dan berbagai unit kegiatan ilmiah lainnya. Melalui kegiatan mahasiswa, FKIP UNS telah menghasilkan prestasi luar biasa dalam berbagai event dalam skala nasional maupun internasional. Sesuai dengan semboyan Ki Hajar Dewantara, Ing Ngarso Sungtulodo, Ing Matio Mangonkarso, Tutwuri Handayani, FKIP UNS terus berbenah, bergeliat, berubah ke arah yang lebih baik, mencetak calon guru yang profesional, mampu memberi teladan, memberi semangat, serta dorongan positif untuk meningkatkan mutu pendidikan Indonesia.
Can't hear you.
Good afternoon, Prof. Reka.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, I'm good. How about you, Prof?
Perfectly all right. It's a colder day today. You can see me wearing a jumper, but good. How did yesterday's session go?
Okay, can we start this session, Prof?
I'm happy if your participants are.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon.
Waalaikumsalam
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon and warm greetings to everyone. Honorable the Dean of the Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Professor Dr. Imam Sujadi, the Head of Master Program in Primary School Teacher Education, Professor Dr. Sri Marmoah, our distinguished speaker, Professor Reka Cole from Curtin University, Australia, esteemed lecturers, and all participants joining us today. First of all, let us express our gratitude to the Almighty God for His blessing. We can gather at this academic event, Visiting Top Professor 2026, the second session that entitled Enhancing Scientific Literacy in Primary Education Through Inquiry and STEM Approaches. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Natania Janani Haryanto, and I'm honored to serve as the Master of Ceremony and moderator for today's event. To begin our program, we will listen to the National Anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya, and followed by Mars UNS. We kindly invite all participants to listen respectfully.
Jiwanya bangunlah badannya untuk Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya merdeka, merdeka, tanahku, negeriku yang kucinta. Indonesia Raya merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya merdeka, merdeka, tanahku, negeriku yang kucinta. Indonesia Raya merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia Raya. Universitas 11 Maret kami mengandungkan subur dan suci. Universitas 11 Maret kami di bawah panci Pancasila, di dalam kiprahnya Tridharma, pedomannya dengan tempat semangat yang memajang demi keagungan dan keluhuran alma mater 11 Maret, alma mater tercinta. Universitas 11 Maret kami tegakkan langkahmu. Universitas 11 Maret kami semoga jaya selama-lamanya.
Okay, thank you for your attention for all participants. Before we begin to the main event, we kindly ask you to turn on your camera for photo session, and don't forget to give your best smile. From the first slide, second slide, the third slide, okay, thank you for your cooperation. And ladies and gentlemen, before we begin to the presentation session, we would like to invite the head of Master Program in Primary School Teacher Education, 11 Maret University, Professor Dr. Sri Marmoah, to kindly extend her warm greetings to Professor Reka Cole.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh. Afternoon, Prof.
Good afternoon, Honorable Prof. Reka Kaul from Curtin University, Perth of Australia. Thank you, Prof, for your time and your sharing about the STEM. Yeah, you have for a session yesterday. You have discussed about inquiry-based science education and primary school, and then today. All the participant, today, Prof. Reka, we will discuss about enhancing scientific literacy in primary education through inquiry and STEM approach. I think in the elementary school, the teachers learn and teaching too about literacy. Yeah? Some of indicator of literacy, one of identify scientific problem found in daily life, yeah, using simple and logical reasoning. And the literacy in elementary school, we have a second of literacy, and then about inquiry learning, they have like related up to observe some phenomena in elementary school. So conduct observation and experiment too in the school, and inquiry learning. We can collaborative investigation and discussion, and then about STEM approach indicator. I think in primary school or elementary school today, we learn about STEM too, about integrated in the science, technology, and mathematics, yeah, concept and the solving problem. And then in the elementary school, we learn about how to apply mathematical reasoning in scientific investigation, and collaboration with team during STEM learning practice. So I think Propreka today we have about 1.5 hours. And
Okay.
yeah, so Propreka, please relax because all the students maybe the process of join and the session. And then one more from study program. Thank you so much, Prof. Reka, for your time, for your dedication with my student. And then all the students, please listen, and then you can discuss or give some question if you understand, or question too. So one more, thank you. Time is your Prof. Reka. Okay, Mbak Natania, thank you as the moderator. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Prof. Sri Marmoa, for kindly greetings, Prof. Rekako, and opening this session. Now we will begin to the main event that entitled Enhancing Scientific Literacy in Primary Education Through Inquiry and STEM Approaches. Without further ado, the time is yours, Prof. Reka.
Thank you very much, Natalia. And before we start, I will. So, can you see my screen?
Yes, Prof. I can see it clearly.
Very well. Okay, I can't change it to slideshow anymore now. That's fine. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for making time on Saturday afternoon. I know you must be really keen on going home right now because the weekend starts, but let's have a quick talk about around inquiry and STEM in primary education. From my perspective, it's easier to integrate STEM in primary schools because the education is not, or the subjects are not very much siloed. So, but before I start, may I please request all of you, because you are you at one place, or you have joined from homes?
We will
Natalia,
join
you can
from
tell-
home.
Yeah, they have joined from home, so we can't have a discussion. But can you all please write down somewhere what do you mean by STEM? How do you understand STEM? Beyond the definition, like we call it, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Beyond that, what would be your understanding of STEM? 2 minutes. What do you understand by STEM education? Is anyone ready to speak about what you understand by STEM? Anyone? Otherwise, I'll call out names. Nathania, can you say what you understand by STEM?
Okay, for me, STEM stands for two aspects of education is science, technology, engineering, and then mathematics. And the fourth aspect is integrated in learning approach that encourage critical thinking, problem solving, and hands-on learning. For me, maybe what I got from STEM, maybe that things, Prof.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's very much there, but I can, when I go through today, I'll talk about different ways of teaching STEM, and that too inquiry, bringing in inquiry there of problem-based learning, project-based learning, and how we can teach it in primary schools. Today's presentation is very different to what we did yesterday. So moving ahead, why is STEM important? As humans, we have made lots of, we have improved our life through science or in health, in agriculture, in infrastructure and renewable energy, which is all part of STEM education. But there is still scope, and a lot of it has to be done, which can be done through in STEM careers. So before we do talk about STEM, and I asked you this question, I thought, first of all, let's talk about what is STEM and why STEM education is important. STEM, as we understand, is a curriculum based on the idea of educating students in 4 specific disciplines, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, in an integrated, interdisciplinary approach to learning that provides hands-on, relevant learning experience for students. STEM will not be always theoretical, but when we give students to do things, is STEM. STEM can be, we can have, it depends on how you look at STEM. It doesn't have to have all the 4 elements of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We can only integrate 2 subjects and call it STEM. We can integrate 3 or 4 and call it STEM. There are, because the word STEM or the STEM education started somewhere in 1990s, early 1990s in America, and STEM evolved. Since then, in the last 35 years, STEM has taken other shapes like STEAM. STEAM is very popular in America, where they integrate arts into it to make it comprehensive. The other form which we are seeing in recent years, maybe last 5 to 6 years, they call it STREAM. And as you know, America is very Christian based, so they are where they bring in the religious education and integrate religious education. And in case of Indonesia, you also have an opportunity to bring the religious idea and make it STREAM. Here in our university, at one time, not anymore, our ex-vice chancellor, she called it STEM, M with 2 M's, mathematics and medicine. So it depends where you take, and there is not a fixed definition for STEM. Since I'm leading the STEM research group in our school, and I wrote few units in the beginning, early 2000s, I wrote some units. So the working definition we took for STEM was integration of 2 or more subjects of STEM. So we didn't see it as STEM, we saw it as T, E, and M separated. So you have, as teachers, lot of freedom to envisage how you look at STEM and then implement it in your teaching. Why is it important? Because we make students do things hands-on, and that's where the innovation occurs. When they inquire, when they investigate, innovation happens, and because of STEM, it changes society. Think how you and I are connected right now. The power of internet, the power of cell phone, and how have these things impacted our lives, and how we think and react, and how it changes the pace of our life. We do always say that our pace of life has become very fast, but you and I wouldn't be working on the same platform right now if we didn't have STEM innovations. So it's better for us to introduce these STEM subjects to students early on, so that they develop interest in it. And I'll come to it why we need interest in that. Because society changes STEM. What does it change? It changes our politics, because we didn't have a Ministry of Communication, say 50 years back. But now our communication minister is very, very important. We didn't have internet hacks. So what is internet security is to be taught, and there's a ministry for that. And it changes our culture. It changes economics. We didn't have AI doing artworks. Nowadays, you have AI producing so much of art, AI producing music, or technology producing music. So whatever is happening, it has profound influence on STEM and then our lives. Keeping in view that what's happening worldwide, that if not STEM, but the job growth where STEM skills will be required will happen, say, around till 2031. It is predicted, it's from 2021. STEM and other fields had similar jobs. But between 2021 and next 10 years, other job growth will be in other fields will be around 5%. But people having STEM qualifications or the jobs needing STEM skills will have 11% job growth. So since the society is changing, it's very important for us to train our children very early on and get them enthused about the STEM, so they take up STEM in their high school and university so that they have a better job. And jobs, it's not only more jobs, but STEM-related jobs are slightly higher paid than in other fields. And what can they do? They can be computer programs, they can be physicists, petroleum engineers, survey technicians. It's not one job. There will be many, many jobs needing STEM skills. So as I'm talking to my colleagues in Indonesia, so I would request you to get these STEM skills in your children, your students, so that they take up STEM. And how is Indonesia going? I didn't get the latest data, but in 2020, China is a country which is creating or producing most graduates with STEM qualification. In China, we have around 3.57 million graduates every year coming with STEM qualifications, and next is India, and then is United States. Indonesia is not doing bad. Indonesia is producing around 300,000. And we don't have to see it exactly, because China and India are most populous countries. Indonesia is not that populous. But if I look at it percentage-wise, in China, we have around 41% of their university graduates come out in STEM, while as in Indonesia, only 20% are coming out with STEM. So it is confirming, keeping the job market or the skill market in view, Indonesia is not doing enough. Indonesia needs to improve their STEM skills so that more and more students come out with these STEM skills, because I know I've read few other documents which is saying that the young population is quite high and jobs. Indonesia has more jobs than they are filled with, or more jobs needing STEM skills than the graduates ready. So let's start working on and getting STEM skilled children. So if I start looking at education because I'm arguing that STEM skills are required for, our life ahead, but we do need to look backwards. What was happening? We were using a book or a lecture hall, or at the most, when it progressed, we might have used some audiovisual materials, but online, internet, or devices were not there. So over the years, education has changed, and what has changed it? It's changed the internet. We are connected. World is connected. And more so in last 2 to 3 years, I would say AI has really, really changed the educational scenario. What was happening in past? Our life was really very, very structured. Children would play from 0 to 5 years. 5 to 25 would have been possibly education. And then 25 to 65, 60, 55 was the work area. And then possibly 65 plus, we would retire and go into the old age. This has changed. Children are given few years to play and then school. And as they go to job, learning in past would happen only between the age of 5 and 25. Now we have to develop lifelong learners because knowledge is changing, skills required are changing. So we need to create students. Our children will be learning here, they will be learning here, they will be learning here. I am learning, I'm a 60-year-old woman, which you would call an old woman, but something new comes, I have to learn. You will be learning new skills. Technology is changing every day. So we can't rely on what I was taught in old time. So in olden days, a diploma, getting a university degree was your currency. It was giving you a job. But in nowadays, your knowledge is the currency. It doesn't matter whether you have qualifications or not, but if you can do a job, you may be taken in for the job. And that is what we call the skills. Skills have become the global currency of 21st century. And this is it's not my definition, it is UNESCO's definition. So we have to accept it. We can't criticize it. It's a worldwide accepted definition. And what happened? Well, how did education started, the current form of education? I know in certain traditional civilization, old civilizations, there was a system of education. But currently, the system of education which we are practicing has come from, it's the Western system of education, and it developed with the Industrial Revolution. The first Industrial Revolution was when the mechanization started, and then electrification was the second, and third one was when automation and globalization started, when people started coming together. Fourth was digitization, and fifth is personalization. That means if everything is personalized, even the education has to be personalized. We have to deliver personalized teaching in the classroom. That's what we talked about even yesterday about inquiry teaching. Every student may make their own understanding, but when we have to accept that. But when we are teaching science, we may have to, as teachers, as directors, navigate their learning and ask them those questions. If you look at, 16th century, when the first industrial revolution happened and the first public schools were created in US and UK. Before that, in UK especially, those children who were educated, they were educated homeschooled. But I know in Asian context, we did have madrasas, we did have gurukuls, where children would go and be taught by their teacher. They would live with their teacher and learn whatever was taught. And in Industrial Revolution, they had bells, they had little choice about how they learned. And schools were also not much different than the industry. You had rows and columns and a book given to them, and children would move from year 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and then you had bells, you had periods, you had siloed things. But now lots of things have changed. But education system has not been able to keep up with the change in the society. Around first Industrial Revolution, there wasn't much difference between the society and the classroom. Right now, we still have siloed classrooms. We have bells, we have rows, columns. Although it is changing, and what's happening, that the societal change is that it is estimated that 65% of students entering primary schools will work in new jobs which are yet to be created. Because primary school children, it will take them, I would say, at least 16 years when they are job ready. In 16 years, at least 50% of the jobs which will be present then are not existing right now. Right now in the world, there is so much layoff from ICT jobs because of the AI. What a company which you used to have.
Ang polo-polo ke fito pa ora ako no. Nakira ba na
A company which used to have 8 IT professionals may need only 2 to check it because they are doing it through AI. So those 2 who will have the best skills will be employed. And our OECD acknowledged that our complex and rapidly evolving world requires a reimagining education content and delivery, including reorganization of formal and informal education. And STEM is the gateway for that, where we will be teaching students with constructive criticism, personalized education, preparing students for evolving industries, automated basic administrative tasks, and all pupils should have skills to access it. So, what is personalized education? I'm just setting the scene. Personalized education refers to instruction in which the pace of learning and the instructional approaches are optimized for the needs of each learner. Learning objectives, approaches, and content may vary based on the learner's needs. You can't do it if we are giving them lessons based on the way we are doing it. If different students in the same class are working at different levels, activity-based education delivery makes it more doable. And through these skills, they will develop collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity, which is the 21st century skills. And how can we do it? As I said, maybe project-based or problem-based learning. It is complex, but what we can do is give students real-world problems, which are used as a vehicle to promote student learning of concepts, and principles are opposed to direct presentation of facts and concepts. I'm not telling students what are facts. I'm not telling them what are the concepts. They will have to look into it, and then when we are elaborating on that, we can talk about it. Now I'm again coming to Indonesia. As I said in the beginning, there is a skilled imbalance. It's not me, it's coming from the Economic Affairs, the Republic of India, your Ministry of Economic Affairs. Skills imbalance more jobs than the number of highly skilled workers. As I said, you have more jobs than the available workers. One of the causes is quantity and quality of education, which is supported by the PISA results that shows that more than half of the Indonesian students do not have adequate skill to compete in the labor market. So what I said, to be successful for the labor market, you need that skills, and you need to train your children early on. Other factor which is important is half of our population is left behind, which is women folk. I'm a woman, and I can see quite a few of our staff members, students here are females. Even here in Australia, 92% of the primary school teachers are females. We are good in taking up teaching job, which is a noble profession, but we do need all women to come out and be educated. And United Nations Sustainable Development Goals had set up that by 2030, all women will be educated or they will have the parity, women empowerment, or we'll have gender equity in the world. But in 2024, they came up with a record that the way we are going right now, if we continue progressing at the same level, it will take another 97 years to get gender equity in the world. So there is a long time to get gender equity. So as teachers, you can encourage your female students and give them those skills which are required for these skills. I mean, knowing the STEM and getting STEM skills so that we get that parity in the world. But at the same time, I couldn't get it. What this report had done, they had also looked at different countries in the world. Indonesia, out of 139 countries, is ranked at 66. So quite a lot to go. But there's something encouraging that in all the three criterions, Indonesia is improving. You can see the trends are upwards, which is quite encouraging for us. But still, I would say we have to go from 65 to further ahead, maybe number one. Aim for number one or being in first 10 in the world. Now, how can we do it? To show this, I'm going to talk about 3 of my projects, which we ran in Australia and few other parts of the world. One of them was design thinking. In design thinking, we ask students to go through 5 stages. Yesterday, I talked about 5 E's, how we can teach inquiry. But in design thinking, this is Haslett Platinum model. He says, ask students to look at a real world problem. First stage would be empathize, where they develop a deep understanding of the problem. Then they define the problem, where they will clearly articulate the problem they want to solve. Then they ideate, which is brainstorming potential solutions, select and develop your solution. And this ideate problem takes really long time because they can have many solutions. Then they need to make a decision which one will be the best one. Then they develop a prototype and then they test it. And then test can again go back to improve it, to prototype and to test. So I have for him, how do we know, like, what evidence they have to collect for empathizing? An environmental scale, which they don't have to go into the field. They can use Google Maps, information where and how far away things are, using a visual diary to count usage in a certain time and date. They can have interviews, surveys, or go to experts and check what they want to do. And I can give you an example of one of my students who used community survey with school children and developed these And these bar charts were developed by students, primary school children. Here are the primary school children. Next stage is define. And in define would be they explore their chosen goals. They can go into the local area and community, take photos of the local area so that they know that and identify the problem. That is the define stage. What did my students do for define? They went, the project was food desert to food forest. So what's food desert? The land which is not very fertile and how we can make it more fertile. They define through online survey and online searching, found a place where food desert was converted into food forest, and they called it a bright and beautiful future, different stages, what they did, and how this agriculture changed. And 60 million primary school age children attended the classes in the world at that time. And it can impact them. Next stage is ideate. As I said, ideate always takes quite a bit of time, where people can, you have identified the problem, but how are students going to find a solution for that? And in this is, has anyone found solution to it? And if they have, how have they solved the problems? Which can be developing mind map tools, have a pencil on a paper, and share these ideas with members in the team and see what their ideas are. I'm going back to the old one. People facing food insecurity. We can look at what is needed, who are the stakeholders, gauge needs and interests, what are the objectives, goals, what are the causes of food insecurity, and what are existing solutions. And if we go ahead with it, what are the risk factors, research, possible solution, and that's how, if this mind map is developed. So as a teacher, you can lead it. You can ask students to have a problem and then move on from there and look at the best possible solution, or ask different groups to go with different choices. Then they develop a prototype. When they come up with a solution. So what did they do? Which is again very much Indonesian. They developed mandala garden design. But before developing this mandala garden design, they had to be, for whom are they doing it? Why are they doing it? How are they going to do it? And what are they going to do it? And where will it be done? Will it be in the school, backyard, or one of the community places? So everything is designed in detail. You can have a look at another prototype. This is the mandala garden, which was developed in the school, in one of the schools. And what all features, because these students, in association with their teacher, they drew this diagram with hand and said what will be where, like to the extent here we will have peach tree, here we will have perennial herbs, here we will have apricot tree, some fodder for the chooks. Everything was decided. So that's what if you can do with your students, and finally will be testing. Or for that testing, we do need rubric. So if you have this rubric developed and test it and see what is happening in the classroom. And again, our students, this was the Mandala Garden, how they have developed, started, and how they are going to test it. Now you can tell me that it only works in, and yes, what they did after they developed this Mandala Garden, they use storytelling and put them there on YouTube. And you have the link here where they talked about their experience through stories and made it available to the rest of the world. And it really gave that, I would say, agency to students, what they have done. At the same time, I ended up developing an app, and one of my Indonesian students from University Negeri Jakarta, during COVID time, she used this app to teach 52 students, pre-service primary science teachers, chemistry teachers, not primary, they were chemistry teachers, and used design thinking. You can see in the app we had discussion board, and I can't read it. You should be able to read it because all discussion has been done in Bahasa Indonesia. So it was used very successfully in Indonesia, and happy students. They have lots of resources online. You can get in touch with them, and if you have any questions, ask them how did they use, and they're continuing using it every year, once a year, a 14-week program, and are using design thinking for that. So this is one solution. Second would be possibly we can develop a makerspace. So what is makerspace? It is a grassroots creative space, either physical or an online space where people can gather to make or create new things. Our makerspace was a little different, and I'll come to that. And what happens in makerspace? It is engaging, it is exciting, it is collaborative. There are lots of inquiry happens, lots of curiosity, and is developing the 21st century skills. So what did we do? We created a space with students, and they started doing different activities. So what were those activities like? They developed, this is what we call Wigglebot. This is where they made a tower. And you can see they made a flower in which they were getting different, because they were using flower had an electric bulb here. They were learning about electricity. They were learning about the dimensions and a bit of technology. They developed this Wigglebot, and which was giving them understanding of different different concepts of science, engineering, maths, and technology. What we would do would give them the material and show them a model and ask them to do it. No instructions given, no recipe, and you come on, do it. And after it is ready, we would ask them questions. And where is the science? Where is because this is in our science curriculum, science as human endeavor and science as inquiry skills. You can see in design, which is engineering, and then they have the technology as well there. And as they were doing makerspace activities, they were collaborating because they were working in groups, they were communicating, they were thinking critically and being creative. And 21st century skills were being developed. As our students were working with them, which is pre-service teachers, this is what we used as their assessment tool, because again, other criteria comes in is that in inquiry, you cannot assess it. So what we ask the students, this is a typed one is this is your artifact. What are you going to do? So where is the mathematics content? Where is the science content? Where is the engineering content? And not only that, we also clubbed it with our curriculum. So which part of ACSIS 232, these are our codes in curriculum, which were kept there. So if we are teaching that, because teachers won't teach anything in their class if it is not coming from the curriculum, because students will be examined on the curriculum content. So we tried, or we did it, to integrate it with our curriculum. So if then this was the content, this was the inner circle, was the activity, outer circle was the SMTE. We also had digital technology content, which we didn't assess, but then the outer circle, which comes in, is the 21st century skills, which is communication, developing skills, creativity, reasoned decision making, reflective practice, perseverance, working independently, and ability. Main thing was ability to resolve conflict and values, rights, responsibilities. So assessment became it led the learning as well. Because as I said yesterday, you learn, but your learning becomes grounded once you reflect on your learning. In one of the schools, we took simple, pipe, that plastic pipes, and our student showed them a model. Guess what? They have it in their hand. We called it iPad stands, book stand. They're made out of it. Creativity, thinking outside of the box. And globalization and internationalization of the economy, along with the rapid development of information communication technologies, are continuously transforming the way in which we live, work, and learn. So we have to be innovative as teachers, because children have a different world outside. So they will learn in a different way when they come to our classrooms. If we stick to only the old ways, it may not, learning may be impeded. Students doing another activity, and there has been a strong push through industry in many countries that a labor market with a strong background in STEM are going to be imperative in helping to solve the future and current world problems. So we need to get children there very, very early on. With the result, we ended up making curtain makerspace physical and virtual. We call it STEMinist. Within it, we do have, these were the most initial students we had. Other activity which we did doesn't need much equipment, was build your hand. It gives students an exercise of dimensions, measuring. Then we talk about the physiology of hand, and it's straw, a bit of paper, a bit of tape, and some thread. And mind you, as I said yesterday as well, the pupils sometimes do not something to learn, and the doing is of such a nature as to demand thinking. Learning naturally happens. And it's John Dewey who has said, like, give them to do something and they will learn. They will automatically learn. With the result, this activity we started Makerspace somewhere in nearly 10 years back. And over the years, this is a picture of our earliest STEMinist in Makerspace in Australia, then in Indonesia and India, and we have taken it to a few other countries very recently, to China as well. You can see what we did. We ran workshops with Indonesian high school teachers, pre-service teachers. Then these pre-service teachers went into school with us and they ran these workshops and they were very happy. That's my Indonesian story of Makerspace. Why I'm putting these pictures, you will tell me that we will not be able to do it in Indonesia, but we have done it and you have no excuse We have done Makerspace, we have done design thinking, we have done Makerspace. So what happened in Indonesia when we did Makerspace? I interviewed some teachers and pre-service teachers and asked them if we are using traditional Makerspace as a recreational activity or targeted learning activity, what will happen is makers create their own communities. Makers are organized into predetermined communities, for example, a class of students. They choose material at their own, and that's the base level kit of materials. And in this instance was what we gave them. And the envisage makers are the students. We call students who are making things. They produce individual, often unique artifacts because they're given that freedom. But in our case, they are shown a completed base level or operational mod artifact and are changed to construct a similar artifact. They are monitored, not instructed. Makers are scaffolded to evaluate their artifact, which when I talked about 5E's model yesterday, that's what's happening. And makers are made aware of the related underlying science, technology, engineering, mathematics, or other concepts in line with the curriculum document. As I said, that's very important. We have Australian children, we have Indian children, and we have these Indonesian children working in this. What we did, we invited education and engineering students to participate. These are university students. We workshop with them around STEM education projects and Makerspace. And then these students, which is engineering and pre-service teachers, they went to schools and worked with year 5s and 6 students in the classes in different countries. That was the model we used. And you can see this is Indonesia, India. Here they are pre-service teachers, and here they are working with school children. Now, we did run challenges, which were you will come across very many challenges, which is what you are taking through Makerspace or through the STEM activities is relevant to their curriculum. Always make activities which come from that year's curriculum, because as the question was raised yesterday, that inquiry takes time. So the curriculum is already overcrowded. So try to help teachers instead of intruding into their curriculum. There is a siloed approach to subjects and assessments, like science teacher wants to run their own assessment and mathematics teacher will want to run their own assessment. It's very important for you to bring them together. Here in Australia, we don't have that problem in primary school because the school curriculum is single teacher model, but it does happen in many other countries. There is issue with E because engineering still has not become a part of our curriculum. There is no engineering curriculum. And this is very much in Australia. We have reduced numbers of students engaging with STEM, especially females. Despite my lots of efforts, and in next project I'll come to that, we have not been able to increase the number of females in engineering. The engineering females in Australia has not changed from 12% for last few decades, which is a concern. It may change. In Curtin University, I sit on a board where we have scholarship for women in engineering, but we don't find many women who are ready for these roles. Scholarships, I mean. So, as I'm now coming back to my first definition, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But as in my university, or my school, we are saying deliberate, full, or partial integration of any or all of the key components of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics skills and content knowledge can be considered as STEM. It may not be easy. This is something we develop pipeline, because when you run these activities, there's lots of discussion happening. And as teachers, you may think that there's no learning happening, but I would say, as John Dewey has said, when they discuss, learning automatically happens. We did come up with the STEMnestweebly.com, where we have a page for Indonesia as well. So if anyone wants, feel free to, it's an open website. You can go to http://stemnest.weebly.com and check. There are activities, activity sheets, instructions, and feel free to use them in your classrooms as they have been tested successfully, and you can adopt and adapt for your classrooms. Now I'm coming down to my third chapter, this project which we did with students here in Australia. As I said, not many females are going into engineering. I was really concerned about it. Most industry was focusing on year 11s and 12s and asking them to take up engineering when they come to university. But if they're not doing well in mathematics and science, they can't be coming to engineering. So I decided to go to primary schools and start letting them know what is engineering and what is technology. And we started it as a small project, which is here I'm talking about. And then we did get a big ARC grant, and we moved on into many, many schools later. So what did we do? We used a pre-questionnaire, and I'll show you that questionnaire. And in that questionnaire, we asked them, what is technology and what is engineering? And or I would say not what is engineering, what do engineers do? because there are many, many misconceptions about what engineers do. After that, my colleague, she is here, or sometimes I went, and we ran a lesson in the schools, and we talked about what is technology and what do engineers do. It was a very interactive lesson, but had few definitions. After that, we ran 3 engineering activities in each of the classes on the topics which were related to their science content of that year. We didn't run the engineering activities. What we did, we sent the activity to the classroom teacher, and the day she had to run it and provided her with all the required equipment. But on that day, and so she ran a class with these students. It was really important that we don't do it. If we would have done, by letting teacher do it, there was more possibility of that teacher will do it in the coming years. Otherwise, it would have been forgotten. But on the day activity was to be run, at least we were a team of 3 colleagues, myself and Nicoletta. I was from education, and Nicoletta here, she is an engineer. 1 from education and 1 from engineering, and then we had a research assistant. Either 2 or at least 1 person would go to school on that day to ensure that we see how it is being rolled out, as well as supporting the teacher. And then we ran a post questionnaire to look at whether they had their understanding of the concepts had changed. What did we do? What does an engineer do? Different things. And what is technology? I'm looking at this picture. Just asking you, is shoe a technology? Anyone? I have a picture of shoe here. Would shoe be in technology? You can write in the chat box, yes or no. Anyone?
Maybe the technology is computer, television, and telephone, then train, maybe.
Not the shoe?
Oh, sorry, I can see it clearly, Prof. It's a bit
This is a shoe.
blurry.
Yeah, that's fine. Those are the things. What happens, shoe is a technology because we improve it for giving support to our foot. We improve through technology. We improve it to make us, like, you have sports shoes are different, running shoes are different, hiking shoes are different, and there is where technology is used. But surprisingly, when I was going for the after we ran the lecture, I asked this child to fill in this form. He clicked tree as a technology. And I asked that child, why do you think that tree is technology? As I talked about yesterday, questioning is very important. How you question. Instead of saying, tree, this is wrong, I didn't say it. I said, why do you think that tree is a technology? And he said, because it's design and it's God's design. So as I yesterday said, they can develop alternative conceptions. Again, it's job of the teacher to clear those conceptions, and we scaffolded it later. Now, what we did is, as I said, we gave them definitions of what science is, what technology is, and what engineering is. Science is the investigation or study of phenomena aimed at discovering basic understanding of the principles, while technology is a tool or system whose development depends on scientific knowledge and investigation. And what is engineering? Engineering is the design of these tools and systems to become practical, usable, and safe. Personally, I see science is the knowledge, technology is the outcome, and engineering is the bridge between them. And you have in that bridge, you have the engineering, but mathematics becomes a part, it's lifeblood of science, technology, and engineering. You will have mathematics in science, you will have mathematics in technology, and you will have mathematics and engineering as well. So what did we do next? After that, we looked at the curriculum of year 5 and 6 that year. In that term, what they were teaching. They were teaching biodiversity, electricity, earthquakes, minerals, the mineral world, energy change, and human biology. So we picked up one lesson in all these themes. One was in biodiversity. This was around the time there were oil spills of Shell, which is an oil company in American Sea. And lots of sea life was dying because of that oil spill. Electricity, we called it Here Comes the Sun. Earthquakes was oil spill solutions, and we did pipeline challenge, and you would have seen one of the pictures. This was the pipeline challenge. We gave them a challenge, and it didn't need anything other than tape and A3 paper and a measuring tape and all. Going beyond this, where was I? Working with watermills and heart of matter was human biology, where we did the heart. And there were a few others as well included. I can show you something what we did in oil spills. They were given a bucket. We put some water in the bucket, half a bucket full, so that this bucket becomes the ocean. And then I went around and put half a cup of oil in all buckets and told these students, how are you going to clean this water? They had multiple things which we had taken with us, but some of the students, because as I told, teacher had run this lesson a day earlier, they'd got something from home as well. A child had brought cooked rice. So what she did, she put cooked rice in the bucket and cleaned it with that. quite a few used, they didn't want bucket. They used this big bottle as ocean. And very intelligently, because oil would float, what they told me, they will turn it upside down and decant the whole water. Now the question was, the only question I had, how are you going to turn the ocean upside down? You can turn the bottle upside down. So they were learning as they were doing. And it became really very, very interesting activity for these children. They loved it. But it's not the activity, it's not the loving, it is learning happening there. And you can see I was much younger that time. This has happened in 2011. Here is Rekha, not having gray hair then. What else did we do? We asked them to make solar houses. They took into consideration, they made the plans, they got the boxes, they put the thermometer inside to check the temperature, because we are living in southern hemisphere. Australia is in southern hemisphere. Perth is supposed to be hot in summer. So what direction should be the windows? How to take advantage of the breeze which comes in the afternoon from Indian Ocean in the Perth. So they had to keep all those things into view, and they won some award later on. And teacher said, in particular, my year 5 class have really taken on board the solar passive house project and are extending the knowledge they have derived from their designs to plan and build their own solar passive homes. My class is turning into a box village. It is great to witness the enthusiasm and engineering skills. So if you do it well, you design it well, children will love it, school teachers will love it. And we did it once, and I am in touch with this teacher, and she is still doing this activity 15 years later in her class. So this is one more example. I can give you an example of a failed activity, which I talked about yesterday as well. I wanted to do nanotechnology. So I took these, I wanted to take a block of tofu where they will cut it and surface area will increase. But I was not allowed to give a knife, even a plastic knife, to these students. So what did they do? I took Lego blocks. It didn't give them the concept. It became a multiplication activity. It was a learning for me. This is to demonstrate that not everything works. We think, we plan, but it may not work. That too is okay. They developed electric circuits. Look at how excited this child is. They're engaged. We asked them to develop these circuits, and they're working on it. And they really did it well. So I used a resource for this, is Boston Museums have a site called Engineering is Elementary, and they have, I would say, if not thousands, but hundreds of lessons for all year levels. for teachers and students, which you can use. And what I did, I took some of the lessons from engineering is elementary and use them in our schools. You can also choose to do them. And lots of inquiry, but we ask them to develop circuits and then ask them questions around circuits. And towards end, when we did the survey again, and there was a significantly improved incidence in their understanding of what is technology and what engineers do. There was one more question in that questionnaire, which was career interest. We were not able to, there was a slight change in career interest, but that was not statistically significant for the females, which was the main aim of this study. I could not change, possibly we didn't do it long enough. We went to private schools and their, career, they come from elite families and they were focused on few other careers that I couldn't do this. Now, what did we try to do? Through these assessments, we tried to capture learning. And what was important is, what do we want our students to learn? Do we want them to learn the facts and figures which are presented in a book, theories which are presented in a book, or the skills, or give them the skills that they become lifelong learners? That is important. And at the same time, how do we capture this learning? I showed you an example in Makerspace. I showed you an example in the other one, Design Thinking, where we have full-blown models of assessing. But here in the last one, which is Engineering and Technology, as I told you, we did pre and post tests to check whether their understanding of science and technology has changed. Engineering and technology has changed, which it had. I think that would be for today, but before we go, I would like to get some questions. I don't know whether you agreed with me or did you learn anything new? That's what I would want you to write in the chat section. Anyone and everyone, start writing one thing, only one thing, what you learned today. I'm watching the chat. You have 5 minutes. Professor Marmu.
Hello, Prabreka.
Yeah. Do we have to discontinue or can we have another 5-10 minutes?
Yes, I think. What do you think, Mbak Tania?
I think we're still got a time until 3 p.m., but we still have a question and answer session. Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I asked them to write down.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, they have come somewhere answers. Oh, it's you.
Nice.
How wonderful. Great. Development scientific literacy in primary education trained by the best learning in STEM approaches. Student-centered learning, where students are encouraged to explore, ask questions, investigate problems, and work. Great, Nathania. A comprehensive answer.
Yes, Prof.
Two more minutes. I don't see any responses coming from there. So should we open the session for any questions?
Okay, maybe.
Anyone has a question for me or
Okay.
a comment?
Maybe while waiting for another response from participants, for participants who want to ask a question, please raise your virtual hand and I will.
Okay, Prabreka, maybe before the QA session, maybe we can discuss about I think the important in the teaching learning process in elementary school. Why? Because all my students in the Magister of Elementary School Study Program, they are a teacher in elementary school. So about the STEM, I think is we have maybe about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, we have implemented in the school, but maybe still confused, yeah, because how to like STEM integration in some of subject, yeah. For me, STEM is just mathematics and science, but if I learn in the some of article, I think STEM just not in the science and mathematics. We can use in the technology, engineering. So we have many subjects in Indonesia, elementary school, Propreka, such as we discuss in the language, Indonesian language, citizen, we have science, we have mathematics, we have like local culture, English too. So based on your experience, I think Propreka is her major in the STEM, yeah, and then Propreka has had many project about research in the STEM in the school. So do you have like suggestion, Propreka, or do you have like suggestion, or maybe you have a new idea what the best practice, what the best implementation STEM in the sum of subject in elementary school today? Because all the participants yesterday and today, all as a teacher and some of us in the few students. Thank you, Propreka.
Thank you, Professor Marmo. A very interesting question, and what you are struggling with, I would say most teachers around the world are struggling with. But what would be good is look at the curriculum and then think of activities either from your own, develop your own, or there are lots and lots and lots of activities available online. Australian Academy of Science has activities, as I talked about. Engineering is Elementary has activities, and there are many other. We have SciTech here in Australia. They have activity. Go onto their websites and see what activities they have, and start thinking of activities for your students. I talked about in design thinking where the teachers had done a mandala garden. So that will be a very appropriate activity for Indonesian students. I did talk about the makerspace activities, which we did in Indonesia. In design thinking, only one of my students, which Professor Marmo, you would have met with, Dr. Fitriani, she used design thinking for STEM chemistry education, where her students developed beautiful projects which are already available on YouTube. And it depends what you really want to do. But that's why I talked about the projects which we have already done in Indonesia and proved that they can be done. But it will be really, really important, like if science and mathematics teacher comes together and then they jointly, it could be even science, mathematics, and English teacher. They do a project where you have a bit of science, bit of maths, then you ask children to come and write an essay about it, and English is also covered. So it develops mathematical understanding, scientific literacy, as well as the English literacy. Or it can even be done in Bahasa Indonesia. So that develops the language skill. But teacher will have to be creative. Before we want students to be creative, us as teachers have to be creative and think outside of box. As I said, the world has changed. and our education system hasn't, and it has to change to keep up with the pace. That would be my answer. And yeah, there is a comment on that, how can we apply STEM in elementary school is very interesting way by helping. Yeah, that's true. Thank you. We have Rosita wanting to ask a question.
Rosita Febriani. Okay, Mbak Natia, Mbak Ratna, please. Thank you, Prof. Reka, for
Yeah,
discussing.
thank you. Thank you for, hope I answered your question.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Prof. Reka. The next question, we would like to invite Miss Rosita Febriani.
On camera, please, Mbak Rosita.
Thank you, Prof. Natania and Professor Nikako. Good afternoon, Prof.
Good afternoon.
I sincerely apologize for not turning on my camera during today's gym class. I'm currently taking care of my baby, Prof. So it's difficult for me to be on camera at the moment. I'm
Not
sorry,
a
Prof.
problem. Not a problem.
I want to ask to Prof. Rikako that in your opinion, what strategies can teachers use to encourage students who are still passive or dependent on teacher instruction to become more active and independent in STEM learning, Prof?
As I don't know whether you were yesterday in my lecture. Even today, I'll say start small. You cannot pick up children and throw them in middle. When you're teaching them swimming, you can't throw them in middle of a pond. Start small, give them small projects where they can become creative, where they have to think in a different way. And it's not only for the students, it's even for the teachers. When they are starting new ways of teaching, they have to be confident. They have to, there isn't much scope for them to make mistakes. So start small, give them small projects where they have to think critically, where they have to work in groups, where they have to communicate with their peers. And you could have one or two small projects in a term. And it can be very, very small and go on. Or it can be maybe a year-long project. As we talked about the design thinking, they planned and developed a garden, a school garden within the school premises. They developed it, which involved a lot of science, which involved a lot of mathematics, engineering, as well as technology. They had to think, where is the sun coming? And which plant will need more sun, which will need shade, where is the shade? They had to design the watering reticulation, which required laws of hydraulics. That's something which you can do very easily. That's why I included these examples, which are very much transferable in your circumstances. But if it's a teacher on their own, I would say start small, add one thing at a time, and then you will see things will change. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other question?
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Or even a
Reka.
comment. Tell me,
Yeah.
Rekha, you wasted our 2 hours.
Okay, next question is from chat box. Prof. Reka, there's a question from Mrs. Jantika. Could you please ask how teacher can implement STEM learning in schools with limited experimental equipment and research?
This is again a problem of many teachers. Look at the activities where you don't need much equipment. I gave you example of hat, which is paper, straws, thread, and children love it, and you don't need much equipment. I gave you an example of pipeline, and if you go on to our Weebly website, you have full instructions there. What you need there is just paper and some sellotape. And students are given a challenge of developing a pipeline, which pipes are very important for water transferation for our homes. Pipelines are important for all the sewerage going away. So what are the principles to be kept in mind when water is flowing or the material is flowing from them? And you will be teaching that to your students. And they will have that experience of mathematics, they will have experience of science principles and design principles. You can always pick up activities using leaves. You don't need expensive material. Pick up the activities where locally available cheap material can be used. Bring a handful of seeds from home and try germinating it and see what happens to it. There can be, very recently, students work with eggs. You can pass an egg if you keep it soaked in some acid or vinegar, and it becomes quite flexible. Yesterday I talked about cohesion. Did anyone try with a dropper? How many drops of water can a small coin hold?
I tried, Prof.
How many?
Around 30 drops.
It would have
For
been
a
a small
small.
coin.
Yeah.
It's when we look at a coin, we think 5, 10. I used a 10-cent coin, 20-cent coin, and we were able to put around 67 drops in it. It's amazing. And that's where you can teach, because I was talking about science yesterday, so it was a scientific concept, but you can always integrate something mathematics there and talk about that as well. And it doesn't take much money and equipment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Reka. So as a teacher, we can use a simple material and resources that easily found in around students' everyday environment, maybe, Prof.
Yeah, that's the key. Now, if you have access, you have resources to buy something more, you can also do that. But if that's not available, use whatever is locally available. I would say, for the sake of material, learning shouldn't suffer.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Reka. The next question is from Mrs. Vika Santi. How is STEM implemented for elementary school students with low mathematical literacy, Prof?
Low mathematical literacy, so pick up the activities where not high level mathematics is required. It's as simple as that, and time is implemented. That's where the teacher's role comes in. As I said, whether it is inquiry teaching, problem-based, or project-based, you have to set up those deadlines. This activity will do till should finish it within a week, and next week we'll do something else, and following week. Set those deadlines and ask students to work around them. You know, when we are in school, don't we have assessment submission dates? This assessment has to be submitted by this date. Or when you go to write an exam, I don't know what happens, like for writing this exam, you will get 2 hours or 3 hours, and you're working within that. But in primary school, children are young, so but set those deadlines and they will do it. My experience has been they do it really well, especially when they are working in groups, they are collaborating, they are communicating, they do it really well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Reka. The next question is from Mrs. Melanie Ambarsari. How do you identify students' foundational literacy levels before designing a STEM project, Prof?
Did we talk about assessment yesterday? We do before, the first thing is the diagnostic assessment. That diagnostic, there are 2 ways. One is if you're working with a year 5 student, you will look at the year 4 curriculum, what these children would have learned in year 4. That is the first line of action for you. All this children have learned in year 4. So in a way, there is possibility few students may not be knowing, but most of the students will have some or reasonable understanding of those concepts. Second would be you run a diagnostic test. And diagnostic test can be as simple as asking few questions in the classroom or giving them a simple test to understand what is their level of understanding of a topic. That would be the way to go ahead. After diagnostic test, when you introduce the activity, your work doesn't stop there. You have to be around. It's not that when we say that project-based learning or problem-based learning, teacher doesn't have to do anything. Teacher has to be more involved. You have to ask questions again. Why did you do this? What are you going to do next? So that you are scaffolding their learning, so that they don't develop. The question is alternative concepts. And when they're finished and they're done, then will be the summative assessment will be at the end, but diagnostic will come first on. It can be either through the curriculum, asking them questions, or giving them a test. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Reka. The next question is from Mrs. Uri. Mrs. Uri asks, can inquiry-based STEM learning truly develop deep scientific literacy if students still depend heavily on teacher guidance during the learning process, Prof?
As I said, I did quote John Dewey, who said, it's not you always give students things to do to learn, but when they do things, they will automatically learn. So if we are doing inquiry, problem-based, or project-based learning, because students are using their thinking, they're using critical thinking in doing those activities, they will automatically learn. But as I'm again repeating the last answer is, teachers' role is to scaffold learning. And when they are scaffolding and students are reflecting on it, they will automatically develop that deep learning of the topic. It is very, very unlikely that when students are doing things, they are not learning it by just reading. They are not only developing the factual understanding, they're getting the relational understanding of the phenomena, the scientific phenomena we are trying to teach them. It's very, very unlikely that they won't learn it. Thank you. Have I answered? Just ask Yuri, does she agree with the answer?
Okay, Prof. There's two more questions. Is it okay, Prof. Reka?
Yeah. Love it.
Okay. Next question from Mrs. Anik. How we can apply STEM in elementary school learning in a very interesting way, helping students in literacy or understanding comments?
Get projects. Simple. As I said, get activities in the classroom and ask them to do it. They will love it. They don't but let me tell you, we have to maintain a balance, because many students, they don't like writing and reading, but when you give them something to do, they learn it. One thing for sure, try to keep a balance, because there is focus on literacy as well. When they finish their activity, ask them to write about it. That is very crucial. By writing, they are reflecting on their learning, they are reflecting on their experiences, and they are also remembering it. So to maintain a balance, keep both.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Reka, for your answer. And the last question is from Mrs. Margareta Cristiani. What are the most important competencies for teacher to have in order to be able to develop STEM learning effectively? Maybe Miss Margareta means STEM.
Yeah. Miss Margarita, it's a very good question you have asked. What competencies teachers should have? I would say teachers should have a good understanding, or I would say strong understanding of the pedagogical practices. And what sort of pedagogies do we use in teaching? And when it comes to STEM teaching, we are using inquiry as a vehicle. We're using a problem-based, we're using a project-based pedagogy to move on with the STEM education, because what these pedagogies are doing is asking students to go hands-on. We are not giving any answers to the students. Instead, they are forced to use their critical thinking. Well, teachers have the understanding of pedagogical understanding, but they have to be good planners. How are they planning their activities? And at the same time, they have to be very flexible, because sometimes what happens is our activity doesn't work the way they had intended. So as they are going, they can't stick to it if it is not working. Then they have to make required changes as they are moving along. So pedagogical understanding would be the first one. The second one would be the flexibility and planning. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Reka, for your insightful answers to all of the questions from participants. Today we had many interesting questions. There's so much question from participants because the material presented by Prof. Reka today was very insightful and highly relevant to be applied in Indonesia, Prof, especially in improving STEM and inquiry-based learning in primary education. We're really grateful for having you here, Prof.
Thank you very much.
Thank you I also want to say thank you to the participant for all the active participation and engaging discussion. So make today's session is more fun. It's
That's what we do.
more insightful. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Selamat.
Selamat sore, Prof. Reka. Session foto Mbak Natania before
Okay.
Prof. Reka leave, ya.
Okay, baik, Prof. Okay, distinguished guests and participants, we have now come to the end of today's event. Before we officially end the session, let us have a photo together to capture this meaningful and memorable learning experience. Everyone, please turn on your camera and don't forget to give your best smile to the camera. Okay, for the first slide, don't forget to smile. 1, 2. Okay, the second slide. Smile. Third slide. The fourth slide. And the last slide. Okay, on behalf of the committee of this visiting professor activity, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Dean of the Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Professor Reka Cole, as our keynote speaker. Thank you so much, Prof,
Thank
for
you very
giving
much.
us the insightful material. Love you, Prof. Thank you to the head of Master Program in Primary School Teacher Education, Prof. Sri Marmua. Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you very much. All lecturers and participants for joining this program today. Thank you so much. We hope this session provides valuable knowledge for you guys and global perspective for the advancement of primary education. Thank you so much. And I would like to apologize for any shortcomings during this event. Thank you for your attention and participation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, selamat sore, and see you again.
Thank you, Prof. Reka.
Waalaikumsalam
See you next week.
warahmatullahi
Thank you.
wabarakatuh. Thank
Okay,
you,
bye-bye.
Miss.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Reka.
Okay, Mas Ba. See you next week ya. On the same day on Tuesday and Wednesday at the same time, 1 to 3 p.m. Okay. Okay, thank you. See you
Thank you
next
so
week.
much, Prof.
Terima kasih, Prof.
Bye.
Mat.
Thank you so much.
Terima kasih, Prof.
Untuk partisipan sebelum meninggalkan ruangan, dimohon mengisi link presensi yang sudah di-share di kolom chat. Karena kalau tidak presensi sangat sayang sekali, sudah 2 hari, nanti kalau terlewat tidak bisa diisi lagi presensinya. Jadi dimohon untuk diisi terlebih dahulu sebelum meninggalkan room.
Siap, Kakak.
Oke,
Terima
Kak.
kasih.
Thank
Sudah,
you.
Kakak. Makasih.
Terima kasih Bapak. Selamat beristirahat. Selamat menikmati weekend.